Washington reaffirms commitment to a political solution in Syria, calls for de-escalation and civilian protection. The US State Department has reinforced its stance on the Syrian conflict, calling for an immediate de-escalation of tension and a focus on protecting civilians during a press briefing on Monday. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller reiterated Washington's support for a political resolution as the only sustainable solution to the decade-long civil war. In all of our conversation with the countries in the region, we continue to urge country to use any influence it has to press for de-escalation. Miller stated, "We don't want to see any country try and take advantage of the situation in Syria." His remarks came amidst reports for increased military operations and heightened regional tensions, which have further compounded the humanitarian crisis in Syria. A decade of devastation. The Syrian civil war, now in its 13th year, has claimed hundreds of thousands of lives and displaced millions both internally and externally. What began as a pro-democracy movement in 2011 has devolved into a complex conflict involving various domestic and international actors. Civilians have borne the brunt of violence, with the widespread and destruction of infrastructure, rampant and displacement, and limited access to humanitarian aid. The ongoing instability has also created a fertile ground for extremist groups to operate, drawing in an international power seeking to secure their strategic interests. As a result, Syria has become a theater for proxy conflict, further complicating efforts to achieve lasting peace. Washington's focus on de-escalation. Miller's comments underline Washington's effort to prevent further escalation and discourage regional powers from exploiting Syria's vulnerability. The State Department's position aligned with the principle of United Nations Security Council Resolution 2254, which outlines a framework for a ceasefire, political reform, and free elections to chart Syria's future. The US has consistently supported a UN-led political process, urging all parties to respect international law and prioritize the welfare of civilians. The protection of Syria's people and the restoration of peace must remain the global community's shared object, Miller emphasized. A broader call for regional responsibility. Washington has been in dialogue with regional stakeholders, encouraging them to act responsibly and support stability in Syria. Miller stressed the importance of collaboration and restraint among regional actors, noting that any attempt to exploit the situation could further destabilize the region and prolong the suffering of Syrian people. The US also heightened the need for increased humanitarian aid and access to besieged areas, calling an international organization and government to set up their efforts to address the dire humanitarian situation. The path forward. While the conflict in Syria remains one of the most challenging global crises, the US government maintains that a political situation is the only viable path to peace. By addressing the root cause of the conflict and fostering an inclusive political process, Washington hopes to contribute to a future where Syria's sovereignty and the rights of its people are respected. The State Department's renewed appeal comes at a critical time when the region faces mounting geopolitical pressure. As global attention turns once again to the plight of Syria, the international community is urged to work collectively to end the violence, protect civilians, and pave the way for sustainable peace in the war-torn country. This is Amna Tariq and you are watching Desi TV USA. Thank you so much for watching.